Okay, am I good to go? So welcome to session 2 of day 5. And we're going to start with some meditation. And you'll remember that earlier in the retreat we were looking at different ways in which you could give. You could give material gifts, you could give friendliness and love, you could give fearlessness, you could give the Dharma. And I was adding on to those 4 traditional ones, awareness, which would be associated with Vairocana, in the center of the Mandala, awareness, which is limitless and ungraspable. So we've done meditations on giving material goods, friendliness and love, and fearlessness. And we're going to hop over off making offering of the Dharma, and we're going to see what happens if we give awareness, if you can think in terms of giving awareness. So let's get ourselves set up to meditate. Awareness isn't a thing that you can give, but in imagination we can imagine the conditions coming together for more and more beings to become more and more aware. Anyway, let's start with this present moment. Let's bring awareness to what's happening now. Now noticing whether there's a particular location in the body where it feels as if awareness is centered or particularly gathered. Might be in the head, the heart region, Relaxing feeling or imagining energy and awareness going down through the body, down into the ground. We're connecting deeply with the earth. And if we find it helpful, we could imagine breathing up the energy of the earth up into the area below the navel. Letting ourselves be nourished by that energy. So the body becomes like some great tree, rooted, nourished by the earth, reaching up, open to the sky. Aware of what's going on in the body. Feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. Subtle physical movements. subtle movements of energy in the body. Now letting awareness gather in our heart center. And particularly in that deep place where our heart longs for freedom, for wisdom, the experience of love and compassion. Longs to be free of suffering. And all that not just for ourselves, for all life. And we let those heart longings, those heart wishes invoke what can really meet them, what can really satisfy them. Invoke a refuge into our heart. Invoke the Buddha. Ayidam. All the qualities that are freeing, liberating, love and wisdom. All in our heart center. And with the refuge in our heart, we can relax. We can let those deep qualities take over. We can let the Buddha meditate. And as that happens, with each in-breath, all our ignorance, all our avidya, all our confusion, all that sense of blundering around in the dark, all that unawareness dissolves into the heart of the refuge. And with each out-breath, there's clarity, clear knowing, bright awareness. And if it helps, there's a sense of darkness being taken away, and more light of awareness. Shining through the body-mind. It's as if the sun of awareness is coming out more and more. Everything's brighter, clearer. You can see how things are. And there's also a warmth, a kind of warm radiance, a lightness to our experience. Until our whole body-mind is brilliant with the light of awareness, the light of knowing. Now that gift of awareness radiates out like the rays of the sun. See it going to particular people and situations. To start with, it may be a little painful. People becoming aware of suffering and how they're causing it. But with each in-breath, all that suffering and unawareness dissolves into the heart of the refuge. And with each out-breath, there's this warm sunlight of awareness, knowing, it's a liberating radiance. This great light of awareness fills all directions, touches all beings, fills their body, mind, the bodies of all beings become radiant awareness. The heart minds of all beings are radiant awareness. with this radiant awareness that knows clearly, sees clearly how things are. All these beings know that they're not separate. And with that recognition, the radiant awareness is full of love. Now, all these radiant beings dissolve into the empty nature of things. We're left with mind and body radiant with awareness. The refuge in our heart dissolves away. But the qualities remain. And let's slowly move into the physical experience of the body, curious about how that happens. leaving aside any ideas. Until we can feel the ground beneath us, slight physical movements. Sense of weight, temperature of the body. Dedicating the merits. That all beings become free from avidya. They all become filled with awareness. Liberated from suffering. Can you just scroll through for me, Ben, please? Okay. So yesterday we were looking at the Mandala offering, and in the afternoon I did a traditional Mandala offering and demonstrated that Mandala offering mudra. And in the evening we explored a question about doing Tonglen, sending out, sort of giving material things, and was that, yes, somehow that didn't feel quite right to the questioner. They felt as if they were sort of pretending to feel good about pretending to give people things when they hadn't actually given anything. So we unpacked that a bit, and that got us into quite deep water, I seem to remember. And we ended up doing a meditation in which we were moving between what we call the physical level of experience and what we call the imagination, the imaginal, and back. And in that meditation we just did, we did something similar within a context of giving awareness. As I say, awareness isn't a thing that you can literally give, but it's we can set up conditions for there to be more awareness present and less avidya. So it can be very interesting. We start in meditation with a sense of this is the physical body, and some minutes later there can be this body of light that we've imagined. We've moved from the physical realm to the imaginal realm. But what have we actually done? What has happened there? Have we gone somewhere else? Is it like moving from one room to another? Or is it more like being, looking at a screen like this one, where the brightness is quite sort of low, and then you turn up the brightness and now it looks really, really different. But nothing has gone anywhere. It's like, I suppose for me the question is almost, if we can go from feeling ourselves to be a physical being to a being of light, if we're a being at all. We'll leave that aside for 1 minute. Yes, are we physical beings who can imagine ourselves as beings of light? Are we beings of light who somehow misinterpret our experience as all being very solid and separate? Yeah, there are interesting questions that we can think about, but it's more interesting to explore and experience as we move between the imaginal world and what we think of as the physical world or the everyday world. Yeah, what's actually going on? Because we make a very strong distinction between the two. Yes, and a lot of the time we're taking the physical world as real, in inverted commas, which means that because we make a strong distinction, the world of the imagination isn't real particularly. It's the image I often have is, the imagination is a bit like a kind of attic room at the top of the house of ourselves, which we go up into, and spend 40 or 50 minutes, maybe in the morning, sort of doing a sadhana or something. And then we come out of that down into the real world and do our day. But is it really like that? Yeah? Given that all the time, all our experience is an experience of mind. We're always experiencing something, if there is anything out there, we don't know what it is. We're always experiencing a representation within mind. The so-called physical body, is a representation within mind. It's good yogacara. It's also good, sort of modern science. So we can take these as sort of philosophical questions, which can be very interesting. But what we're really concerned with as Dharma practitioners is just putting an end to suffering, which means that we need to explore this to see through unhelpful assumptions that we're making, which causes suffering. That's the real issue. We want to find out as directly as possible how things are, rather than living in a world of assumptions about how they are, which are unhelpful and produce suffering for us and for people we come in contact with. So I'm not looking to kind of give you sort of answers, even if there are neat answers, but it's just that we need to break down some of those kind of conceptual assumptions and really explore our experience. What's our experience beneath the words? What's our experience? Is there a physical world and an imaginative world? Is there a continuum? Are there some kind of spectrum? Or does none of that apply? Are all those just ideas that don't do justice to things? Okay, maybe that's enough to be going on with about that. So I'd like to go back to the Mandala offering for a few minutes. So we've seen that there are traditional ways you can make a Mandala offering. You can find creative ways of your own to do it. However we do it, there's this sense of out of strong feeling for the refugees, strong feeling for the three jewels. We would, just like with someone that we really love, we want to give them things. And so we offer anything and everything that we can think of to the refugees. And that can also include the objects of our attachment, aversion, and confusion. So it can be very good to offer things that we're attached to, because that sort of breaks down the attachment, it weakens the attachment. There's some sense of acknowledging that we're stewarding this thing rather than that we have complete ownership over it. There's a generous movement of our being in relation to that thing. And that helps. That helps, particularly if we do it repeatedly. But it's not just about things. We can offer people and situations as well. It's like if you can offer a parent that you're concerned about. You can offer a child that, it's like if you're a parent, you care deeply about your children and what happens to them. There's a sort of real deep longing to be able to protect them from difficulty. but they're separate beings and they have their own karma. And often there's that great sort of love there, but there's attachment in there with that, which means that if something happens, the child's life isn't going in the direction we want, then we get anxious about it, we get concerned, and that doesn't actually help them or us. So we can offer this, we can offer our children, we can offer our parent that we're concerned about. It's like we entrust them to the refuge, we entrust them to the three jewels. And we're still in relation to them, but there's a sense of ease and sort of freeing within that relationship, within that connection. And yes, we can also do that with, we can offer situations we don't know what to do about, or things that really kind of irritate us. You just offer it to the three, offer it to the Buddha, offer it to the Buddha. And as we'll see more fully later, there are various ways in which we can offer ourselves. Okay, any questions about that? Is that clear?
I have a question, Vessantara, Samra Pushpa.
Yeah.
I'm just not clear about how offering something that irritates me is a gift to the Buddha.
Well, it doesn't irritate the Buddha.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's a gift.
Yeah, it's a gift. It's like, and it's on one level, what we're doing is we're saying, on the everyday ego level, I don't really have the resources to deal with this, so I can't find them, which is why it's irritating me. So it's almost like we're shifting levels. We're kind of, it's a bit like Bhante talks about the difference between a difficulty and a problem. A difficulty, he says, is something you can solve on its own level. A problem you can't. It's like there has to be a shift in consciousness. Yeah, somehow there has to be a shift in perspective. So in quite a deep way, when you just offer a situation, you kind of lay it at the feet of the Buddha. Yes, partly you make it a gift and say, here you are, but you're also kind of entrusting that situation to a deeper wisdom, put it like that. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really kind of more what's going on. Yeah. Anything else?
Hello, Vessantara.
Hi, Guniketi.
You encourage us at the end of the meditation to pay attention to the difference between the imaginal and the, if you like, physical realm.
Yeah.
And what I noticed is a sense that the physical realm seemed to be much richer in detail of sensory input and a sense of the consistency.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I just wondered if you had any comment. And I had this thought that it's because I am more used to the physical realm. Mm-hmm. Somehow. Mm-hmm. Oh, I thought that when I reflected back on the meditation. I don't know if you have any comment on
that. Yeah, I think it's partly that. I think if you there are some visualizations in the Indo-Tibetan tradition that get extraordinarily detailed. Yeah, so if you were to really spend enough time in that realm, then all those sort of details would tend to get clear. But for most of us, it's like the difference between, say me looking at Ben, who's looking after this morning with the tech, and then me closing my eyes and imagining Ben, well, actually, I've got quite a clear image because I just looked at him. But if I were to sit at home 4 hours from now and imagine Ben, the image probably wouldn't be quite as clear. Yeah. Just because I'm not as trained in imagination as I am in as when I get direct visual input. There is something about how I've got something going on about how we tend to be very focused on characteristics of things, and but it would take a while to unpack, and I think let's leave it for now. Because we won't get a break.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, but part of it is very definitely that we're less. We've engaged less energy in the imaginal realm than we have in the physical realm, and paying attention to it. Okay, let's stop and have a break and come back. Let's be back ready to go at 20 past. Okay, welcome back. Hope you had a good drink or break or whatever you did. So before the break, we did that meditation about the offering of awareness. And then we went back to the Mandala offering. And traditionally, the Mandala offering is seen as, if you do it, particularly if you do it as an ongoing practice, is seen as a way of accumulating a great deal of merit, of punya. And in the tradition, as well as, a lot of Indo-Tibetan practitioners, they would be making mandala offerings just in the course of their everyday practice. They might just make one, say, or three. It was also done as one of the 4 foundation yogas, the Mula yogas. So after going for refuge and developing bodhicitta, and after the Vajrasattva purification would come the mandala offering. So it's like having purified the negative, then you'd build up this great accumulation of positive energy. And from a traditional Mahayana point of view, to attain enlightenment, you need to gather the 2 accumulations, the 2 sambhara of merit and wisdom. So the mandala offering is seen as a way of gathering that accumulation of merit. And a mental offering, or that's a mental offering, from a Buddhist point of view, if has energy behind it, if it's a volitional act, it's a karma. Yeah? So it has an effect. And for instance, dhyana is considered to be a weighty positive karma from a Buddhist point of view. And dhyana is a sort of mental action, a series of mental events. And again, I don't want to keep going on about the material world and materialism and all that, but I sometimes think that we, as Buddhists in the West, kind of slightly undervalue the power of mental actions. We don't almost kind of see them as karmas, because what's real is what happens in the real world, which is out there. Yeah. But from a Buddhist point of view, a mental action, a volitional action that happens in mind is a karma, and if it's a concentrated one, then it's a strong karma. And if it's a very positive one, such as offering all kinds of amazing and wonderful things to awakening, then it produces a very strong effect, a strong karmic effect. Yes, it produces what's traditionally called punya, which we usually translate as merit. And Bhante talks about how in the East, punya becomes a kind of a bit like a dharma currency. It's a bit like a sort of spiritual Bitcoin or something that you can kind of mine and then sort of exchange. And he tells a story of I think it's a Jain ascetic who's been practicing asceticism for many years, but eventually he gets a bit fed up of doing that, and he wants to sort of give it all up and go back to ordinary life. But he convinces other people that through his asceticism he's developed a lot of merit, and there's somebody else who's lived quite a worldly life and, you know, feels like they're quite lacking in merit. So that person buys from the ascetic his merit, with the money that he's gained from selling his merit, the ascetic then sets himself up in business. So that's all a little bit suspect from a Buddhist point of view. So, but then what is merit exactly? I mean, Bhante talks about it sort of slightly poetically, as the effect of it at least, as it being like positive actions of body, speech, and mind, which it's almost like the way he talks about it, they create almost like a sort of positive aura around you, which attracts helpful experience and sort of repels, as it were, unhelpful experience. And so that's more of a sort of spatial kind of metaphor. Another way in which it's sometimes talked about is that punya is a kind of, yes, a sort of like a positive force, a positive energy, a sort of positive momentum of body, speech, and mind. And it can certainly feel like that. You know, certainly, if you make a lot of mandala offerings, there is this sense of a kind of positive momentum of your being. It becomes quite tangible. But you can also notice, you know, if you do anything skillful and concentrated, you know, if you go away on a solitary retreat and you have some good meditations, when you come back, it's like for the first few days, it's like you have a sort of aura around you, and sort of things which usually would have bothered you, they just kind of bounce off, you know, and it's all fine. But then as the days go by, you know, the aura seems to get a little bit thinner and the things start to impinge a bit more. But it's certainly seen as a punya, having a lot of punya in the tradition, is seen as attracting to you sort of helpful experiences. And if you have been practicing and developing positive mental states, you can quite often find sort of interesting sort of synchronicities happening. Things which, you know, unless you want to just put them down to a very unusual coincidence, it's almost like certain things are attracted to you. You know, people are attracted to you. You know, situations happen in ways that, that actually kind of make you wonder whether the inner worlds and the outer worlds are as separate as they might seem. Yeah. And this is very much a context, a way of looking at things that's there in traditional Buddhism that probably isn't there so very naturally for us in the West. So yes, a lot of Tibetan and other Eastern practitioners will think very much in terms of if things aren't going well, you know, they'll do practice to develop more merit. Lama Tillman, who guided the 3-year retreat that I did some time ago now, his teacher was a Tibetan yogi who'd spent many, many years in retreat and then got sent to the West by the 16th Karmapa to set up some centers. And to start with, it was all quite hand to mouth, as they say. They were quite poor. They didn't have a lot of resources. And they set up a retreat center. And at a certain point, there were some people there doing long retreat. At a certain point, the guy who was the treasurer came to Gendon Rinpoche, this teacher, and said, we're running out of money. You know, we've got about enough money to last to the end of the month, and then we don't know what we're going to do. So please, Rinpoche, what should we do? So Gendon Rinpoche said, take the rest, make sure you've got enough for a week, but everything beyond that, take it and use it to build a big stupa in the grounds of the retreat center. And you can see, you can imagine, the treasurer with a sort of Western treasurer's kind of head on going, we've only got this amount of money to feed people, and you're going to now spend it on building this big kind of thing which isn't going to feed anybody in the grounds. But in that very traditional setting, if the Lama says, take the money and build a stupa, you take the money and you build a stupa. So they did, and whether by coincidence or the effect of that great sort of, the effort of creating a symbol of awakening and the positive energy of that, somehow money started rolling in, and it all worked out. But I'm not so interested in the outcome of the story. What I'm interested in is that for a traditional practitioner, it was just very natural to think of, we're losing, we don't have enough resources here, so we obviously haven't kind of created the karmic conditions for the resources to be there. So okay, we'll do something which is really positive, and we'll trust the Dharma, and it will work out. So if there are any center treasurers on the retreat, I'm not necessarily suggesting that in the middle of this pandemic, you take your resources and build a stupa in the backyard of your center. But what I'm trying to just point out that often it's interesting that there are sort of traditional ways of thinking about these things, which I don't know how much we've kind of considered. It's not even that we've kind of thought, I don't agree with that. Very often it's almost like that aspect of the Dharma hasn't even come strongly enough for us to for it to really be a question and an issue. So anyway, yes, mandala offering, traditionally, like all positive weighty karmas, creates a lot of punya. What else? How are we doing? That might be enough for now. Any questions?
Yes. When you say that it's Mujtavati, when you say that merit traditionally attracts something helpful, is it necessarily pleasant?
No, I kind of carefully use the word helpful rather than pleasant.
Right. We're not all going to go and get an enormous amount of money if we build a stupa.
Not necessarily, but we'll get what will be really helpful for us traditionally. Right. Yeah. In the Dharma Sutras, there's a section where it talks about well humbled will the person who comes into contact with the Dharma Sutra be. They'll be humbled, and Bhante sort of unpacks that, saying that the Dharma Sutra gives a great sort of impetus to your practice in one way, but that's it can put quite a lot of sort of tension into the system, and so what you really need at that point is a sort of humiliating experience. And he says that your punya doesn't necessarily just give you what you want; it gives you what you need spiritually, and hopefully in other ways as well. So yes, I was careful with my choice of words. It's helpful, and some quite often pleasant. But Okay. Anything else? Shucks. Nope. All right then. Let's see if we can find a positive mental state or two in meditation. So just these aware sounds, these aware sensations, aware emotions and thoughts. Well connected to the earth. Feeling that support. In a supportive posture. All kinds of sensations coming and going. And we could say that they're all coming and going in a field of kindly awareness. But maybe we don't need to make that sort of separation. Maybe there's just kindly awareness manifesting as sensations. Aware of the breathing. Or just aware breathing. Now aware of us all breathing together. All of us practicing together. we find it helpful, we can see, feel, sense us all together in this bodhicitta mandala, with the great circles of lotuses, the vajra wall, the wisdom flames. All seated together. And in front of us, which if we're in the bodhicitta mandala is right in the center, is the refuge. Let's take some time to offer to the refuge. It can be as simple or as extensive as we like. Offering out of appreciation, devotion, love. When we give someone something, it strengthens our connection with them. We can offer things from any level of experience. The natural world, human society, and everyday things, arts, crafts, and the most refined experiences. Whatever feels right to us, whatever satisfies our heart, whatever we'd really love to offer to the refuge. And we can offer things and people that we're attached to, frustrated by, confused by. Entrust all those to the refuge. Now from the refuge come rays of light, rays of love. Taking in their influence, their qualities, their adhisthana. Now letting go of the images. Just aware experience it. And finally, sharing the benefits of the practice. No need to hold on to anything. Letting life flow. Okay, thank you all for that. Very good to see you all, and hope to see you for session 3 or 4 later on. Go well.
Thank you, Vessantara. That was really helpful this morning, particularly before the break. Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome, Samatha.
See you later.
Au revoir.